Yeah.
So yeah, basically what we're going to do is what normally around this time, probably a little bit earlier, but we would be starting to talk about Hillsong Conference and how we would approach it. We'd start to look at the stage designs, and we'd start to navigate all of the creative aspects and work out how we're going to make sure that every seat in that room has great audio. So instead of, because we can't actually do it this year, we figured we'll take everyone along for the journey of, what it would look like if we were to do it. So what we're going to do is go and unfold a lot of the previous Hillsong conferences, color conferences and other events throughout the years, and generally talk about the challenges we've had, the systems we've used and why we've used them, our battles with prediction software, PA vendors and systems engineers and everything along the way. Of course, feel free to ask any questions. Hit up the Q&A or the chat. So Maddo will be monitoring that the whole time, and she'll interrupt us and stop us from chatting if we're just rambling on. Cool. So let's. Where should we start? Should we start from one of the early ones, or should we kick off from one of the newer ones? What do you reckon,
something current.
Start something current. Let's look at last year. Let's unfold last year. So Jazzy's the master with Vectorworks, and last year would be a Blueprint, because last year was an Adamson system. Yep. So it was a lot of E15, E12s, S10s, E119s.
What do you want to look at first, the Vectorworks or Blueprint?
Let's look at the Vectorworks.
Okay.
And if there's any renders. We'll have a quick chat about the challenges that won last year, because last year was like we had split arrays, and you'll see why.
Yes.
And limited product available.
That is true.
A massive challenge we had.
Which a massive challenge in its own.
Yep.
Yes. Just a moment. Sorry, just opening the file. Yeah, so last year we had a design that was in the round, and this is, when we say in the round, fully in the round.
Yeah. What's the seating capacity of Kudos?
Yes. Is it like
22,000 or something?
It's 22, like for a sporting event in the round, like a basketball, I'm sure it's like 22,000.
Yeah.
What rings in my head.
Yeah.
So, the mode we're in, it's got to be, 20-odd thousand, because we put a lot of people on the floor still.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah. And I mean, every year ours it's sold out and somewhat over capacity. So it's definitely a lot of fun, especially when you've got these really sort of abstract stages to work with, and we have to get coverage all the way down to the floor. Because the front rows go all the way up to the edge of the stage, and
lots of screens.
Yes, lots of screens.
And it's the same. You've got to be able to see the screen in every seat, but also hear the PA in every seat, which is an interesting physical challenge.
Yes.
Yeah, certainly brings a lot of challenges. So basically, the criteria is that we don't want any. Even in the nosebleed sections, we don't want anyone to feel like they're in a B grade seat. So what we want to do is make sure everyone who comes and attends one of our conferences has the most amazing experience possible, both visually and audibly. So that means that we are encouraged by our creative design department to try not to block the visual elements with PA. But at the same time, we obviously need to make sure that everybody is going to hear the speech. So the dialogue, spoken word, is our highest priority, and we want to make sure that we've got every seat covered. And we've learned along the years that, you can never always rely on front fill, and you can never, you certainly want to make sure you're hitting every seat from the flones.
Yes.
So that's always a challenge. Also, guys, if you just joined, make sure just jump in the chat and let us know where you're from. want to see roughly, where in the world people are from and where they're attending. Germany.
I nearly made my coffee. I was going to make my coffee in my Tim Hortons
Melbourne,
mug
Philippines.
for all the Canadians, but I didn't. It just ended up in a normal mug.
Breezy, Canada.
Hello to all of our Canadian friends,
Hello from Hillsong Kiev. Wow. Okay. Gold Coast, Poland. That's Cape Town.
I'll throw a funny one in here, Ricki, because you just mentioned it. So many years ago, the very first time in this arena, and it was an end stage, and it was the first time we attempted the design incorporated a much lower stage than we'd ever done. And this is where we got done with the front fill, because it was pretty standard practice just to put some front fill boxes up. From memory, there were some arcs or something like that to cover the first 5-6 rows. The first night of conference, youth all ran down the front and no one could hear, because they all stood in front of the front fill, because the front wheel was way too low anyway, but I'm pretty sure the stage was only maybe 2 or 3 foot high, if that, where we'd always done a traditional concert stage at 5 or 6 feet high. And that was our very quick lesson in, that where we adopted this process of the arrays have to hit the front row. There is no option. So the flow and array, we bend them as much as we can. So maybe that's something you can talk to, Juzzy.
Yeah, with banana.
You're very good at bananaing.
Yes, well, definitely. Yeah, as Crawford said, the front fill for us at a Hillsong event it's almost not used until we sit down and we're in preach. Most of the time, everything's coming from a flown array, mainly due to the stage height and what they like to. Stages like that to design. I see if you can see this photo here. You can see how low that stage is. It's basically at head height.
Yep.
And if you want to put a front fill in there, it's going to be below the top of the surface. So it's at neck height of the first person. So basically
of course, we can't put anything on the stage because they want it to be visually as clean as possible. So typically that front fill is installed under the stage, which then puts it roughly about chest height. So it doesn't actually do anything.
Belly button fill.
Yeah, exactly. So
your belly button.
Until people are sitting down, and for speech, that's where it really kicks in.
Exactly.
Yeah, with the speech, for me, the front fill, and just probably jumping on a bit of your, thing, Juzzy, but the front fill is still an important thing because it helps with your imaging.
Oh, completely.
Bring
the reality back of where the person's preaching from.
Absolutely.
So you want it, but you just can't rely on it.
Yeah, definitely. So that's so when we talk about imaging, we're talking about you're seeing a person on the stage, so you want to feel like their voice is coming from the stage. You don't want it to sound like it's coming from a PA that's flown, 30 feet above your head. You don't want your brain to be kind of looking up while your eyes are looking forward because your ears are hearing it coming from above you. So if you're in one of those front rows, we really use that front fill to reinforce the imaging, to bring your perspective down and make it sound like it's coming from the stage itself. So when it comes to imaging, like we really, really try and focus around keeping it stereo, because if anyone's experienced any of our content, any of our music, it's especially all the newer stuff with all the tracks and the keys and the synths and everything going on in there. It's really hard to mix that in mono. And I'm pretty sure if we actually tried to mix it in mono, half the stuff would disappear. So.
I'm quite happy to say I don't have the skill to mix that in mono. I'm sorry. God gave me 2 ears, and I'm happy to use both.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, and we've been over the years, we've been through battles with rigging problems and weight problems and budget problems, where we've almost had to sort of fall back to that rough kind of, we basically, this arena, we don't attempt it with anything less than 8 arrays. In the round, in the current configuration. We've tried to look at it to do it in the past with 6 to try and save weight, save money, save whatever. And we just know it's going to shoot ourselves in the foot. And I had to make a tough call last year, I think it was, when we really had to sort of pull back both budget and weight, because weight was a major concern. And Crawford came back and judged me and said, "Are you kidding me? That's not going to happen." That's like, are we actually going to be able to get away with that? And I'm like, no, you're right. We have to put more arrays in. So we went back to 8 arrays.
That's probably an important thing to understand, for other people that are on this. We don't always agree, and what probably is the strength of working in a team like this is over the years, we've made mistakes, but when you have a team, the other person will call you out. There's been plenty of times where any of us will go, I don't reckon that's the best idea, and sometimes when you're working on your own and you don't have a team, which it is a real privilege to have a team of real smart people, they help pick things up and don't let you go too far down a path where you go, I wish I didn't make that decision. So that's definitely been a strength that we've had now for a number of years. We're willing to speak up. Sometimes it's not the easiest thing to speak up, but it's the best thing for the conference.
Yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, that's what we're really trying to achieve. It's the greatest outcome for the conference and the attendees. So, if that means we have a couple of disagreements leading up to it, so be it. But at the end of the day, it's always going to yield the better result. The last thing we want to do is start dialing things down to the lowest common denominator. Because when you, and this is a constant battle with conferences, especially Christian conferences around the globe. The creative design aspect of it, like there are some people producing some amazing looking stages. And the last thing that the designers want to see is these columns of black boxes hanging in the stage.
No, I want to see them.
Yeah, so do I. But we have to have these conversations with them where it's like it's a necessary evil. We have to do that because if we don't, it's going to prioritize. And I remember listening to the MXU podcast with the guys from Passion on it, and they went into Mercedes-Benz Arena in Atlanta, and they said from day one, we're prioritizing audio here because this venue has not had a good track record with audio, and we do not want that. We don't want our event to be one of the statistics in. So I mean, they flew a ton of K1, like a ton, and made sure that every seat was nailed. And from everything I heard, it sounded fantastic. So our own James Rudder from Hillsong United mixed front of house on New Year's Eve there. So, and he loves a good K1. So there's not, out of all the guys who were there, I didn't hear a bad result on front of house at all. So should go. So there's a question there. Yeah. How do you go about the design of the PA, deciding on size, elements, coverage, in-house or rental company? Okay. Well, the last part of that question, in-house or rental company, it'll always be a rental company. We avoid, wherever possible, removing our own equipment and taking it to site. Sometimes we have to, but we avoid it because typically conference will finish on Friday night or Saturday night, and we still have church the next day. So we still have to accommodate for that. So we try to avoid pulling out our own equipment, especially the PA. That's not going to ever happen. No. So it's always going to be a rental company. Last few years, we've happy to give a shout out to Eighth Day Sound. So Eighth Day Sound have been providing us with the all the Adamson gear, and which we're all fans of and we love. Prior to that, it was prior to basically Eighth Day sort of setting up shop in Australia and having inventory of the Adamson. We've used JPJ. Or Jan's Production Services, as they were previously known as, otherwise aka Claire Global. And they've basically provided our acoustic systems, K1, K2, all the way back to VDOSC. There was even a year with some Vertec. And there was one year, Juzzy actually flashed a photo of it before, there was one year with Norwest Productions supplied, and this was in a smaller arena, like a mini arena. It was the old Sydney Entertainment Centre before it was bulldozed and turned into the new International Convention Center. But that was a monster of a Adamson Y Axis rig with the T21 Flying V of Doom. That thing, there was a need in a creative element to create an earthquake, and so we created an earthquake. We did that. There's nothing like 32 21-inch Kevlar drivers to move some air.
Hey, Ricki, I was just going to say, I'll jump in on the comment about like the size of the PA. It's for us, when you look at it, if you looked at it on an SBL level or just a pure sheer volume, you would go, we put way too many speakers in the space. But for us, it's about coverage. There's more headroom than we need, or most of us need. So some people still find the end, but it's and maybe Juzzy, you could talk about this. To get the coverage we're after, you have to put a lot of boxes in, because the further you split angles and all these things with line arrays, again, the more you compromise your final outcome. And because speech intelligibility to us is such a criteria, you've got to keep all of those angles, in their sweet spot.
Yeah. I guess, do we just talk about the process we go through for a conference?
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I guess for me, usually either Ricki or Luke Fairbairn will get in touch and say, and they'll send me the designs for the conference. So there's basically a creative concept. They'll send me drawings of, the creative concept for the conference, be that screen, stage, lights, etc. And then basically look at how I can design the best PA possible from an audio point of view, while also being sympathetic to the visual aspect. So I'll basically get the Vectorworks drawing or the PDF and basically start designing. Well, I'll take the creative design and put that into the prediction software before I put any speakers in. I'll make sure I get all the screens in, all the staging. If there's any trusses that are going to be in the way, they can go in as well. And then look at how I can fit around them and basically come back to production and say, this is the best outcome I can come up with, but we need to move this screen, we need to move this truss, or we need to move this stage element or whatever. And then we have that conversation over weeks, sometimes months, trying to get the best outcome for all of us, really.
Yeah, definitely. So, Juzzy, a couple of questions popped up, like, why did we call it the Flying V? Was there a certain shape to it? Have you got that drawing on your screen?
I have.
And then we'll jump back to that.
I'll just say quickly as well, just so people understand, because Juzzy and both of you guys will, most of the time, if Juzzy says, hey, can I move this truss or move something, everyone's very accommodating. It definitely, everyone straight away goes, okay, cool, let's sort what we can do. And it's only then if maybe the lighting guys can't get the lighting shot thereafter, then they'll say, but normally everyone's very good at explaining the why they've put something somewhere.
Yeah.
That's a fair comment, isn't it, Juzzy?
Definitely. You definitely have to explain yourself and the reasons why you want, I could just say I need the screen to move because it's in my way. But, why is it in the way, or why is this light in my way,
Yeah.
And that continues right until almost doors, because, as much as you can plan, I remember one year, basically, we were setting up and walking around and I could see a big 5K Fresnel. They're like this big. It was smack bang in the middle of the array on a truss. And I was like, hey, JD, do you reckon you can move that? He's like, yeah, sweet, no worries.
Good. I love the chain motor bags.
Yeah.
When the chain motor bags go and hang right in front of your HF on your array. And they go, oh, what, it just go around it, right? And you're like, well, it's this much, right? And then by the time it gets to the back of the room, it's like this much, right? But what happens is it's this much close to the PA. So what you've gone, and you're going to put an object that's this wide in front of it. So therefore, there's nothing going out the front. So this drawing is actually this one's pretty close to my heart, because this was actually the first year that I personally managed the audio, project managed the audio for a Hillsong conference. And is this 2011? 11?
Yeah.
Okay.
2011.
And I remember Juzzy and I were chatting about it because it had a degree of difficulties. You could see, so the dark part at the top, the dark gray part, that's essentially a drape. The blue part is a LED screen. And I kind of said to him, look, we need to cover the arena in a horseshoe shape, but I kind of want every seat to have stereo. we had limited product available. We had very limited budget available. We had limited weight available. So we ended up doing basically splitting each zone. It was like almost like we split it into threes, each side. So each side kind of had its own Y18 and Y10 combo. On each side, we had the Y18 and Y10 combos on the mains. And then we threw the ones in the corner to take care of the overlap. So people sitting around the corners, so basically people sitting in between each array got a stereo image. So if you split the venue into threes, we got stereo image. The people in the corner were the ones that were going to suffer. Now, to cover that overlap, because you've got, when you put a PA in, and Josie can talk about this more with the 6 dB down points, you need to be able to create a very smooth transition between the arrays. But because we went from what would be a left, a right, to a left and a right, we decided to switch those around and add another array in. So you've got your main left, right. The corner arrays were alternate left, right, and then it was alternate left, right from that point onwards. So that way we managed to maintain somewhat of a stereo image, even if it was reversed, but it's still a stereo image. There's still separation and space there, and made everyone's life easier when they're mixing. It still created that and gave us that image. Now, when you go to the, if we go back to the question of why it's called a flying V.
Yes.
It's that's it.
In the middle.
In the middle right there. So basically, where those subs are positioned is sort of as symmetrically even as possible from the main arrays to keep the time alignment as even as possible. So you're not having to do any crazy offsets and with delays to try and time align the subs to the mains and keep the phase at the crossover point coherent around the whole room. Well, for as most of the room as possible.
So how many T21s was it?
It was two hangs of 8.
It's 2 hangs of 8. So it's literally above, if you're not used to looking at speaker drawings, it's above where it says 4.15 meter radius. Those 2 sort of square blocks just above the truss there. Yeah, there we go. He's got some pretty pictures showing where the drivers are going, those arrows.
That's it. Yep.
So there's the subs in the middle there.
Yeah, there we go. Nice.
Yep. I wish we had photos.
So that's 16 T21s. And that had an awesome amount of punch.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk about where the negative that this created.
Yes.
You're
probably best
if you were standing on stage underneath this, what kind of lobe did you get?
This was not the monitor guy's favorite thing.
No, it wasn't.
Well, only when we positioned the vocalist underneath them. Once we moved them, it definitely was better.
Yeah.
But it's also an interesting thing, people, if you don't understand, when you've got a hollow stage, which most of the stages in these kind of venues are, the stage can essentially, when you're energizing it, can become a big speaker, a big, speaker diaphragm. And this definitely energized the stage, and the whole stage was just vibrated out of control.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we had rust falling out of the roof. There was an old venue. It no longer exists, but we definitely had rust falling out of the room.
Yes.
But
I will say as well, it was incredibly even. The coverage, the sub in the room, it did an excellent job of very even sub.
So, and just on that, Josie, you want to talk about just quickly the point of having a single source of sub and why we create these monster single sub arrays versus distributing the subs around the room, for example, like in the round. Why would we not distribute subs around the room? And there's a question I see there from Nate saying, newer cardioid, I should be using cardioid boxes, any advantage in the round? We'll get to that one after. That kind of made me think about why we build these big monstrous subarrays rather than, going and hanging a subarray behind each main array.
Yeah, well, but it's basically all down to the interaction between the subs. I should do, while I'm talking, I'll try and do up a thing so we can have an example of it. But go, Croft.
While you're talking, Juzzy, I want to
Yeah.
know, do you do steering on those subs, or are they all just one big block?
No, all one big block, all one big coherent source is what I do.
So
and
basically, when you introduce steering, you sacrifice SPL.
Yeah, there is that. And also, typically the line lengths we see of those is probably not long enough to have any advantage of steering. Basically, you start adding delay time to subs as you go down to try and steer it down the floor. And the benefit you would see from that doesn't outweigh the negative. So you would
There's always a trade-off.
There's always a trade-off, no matter what you do. There's always a trade-off.
Yeah. In physics, you don't get something for nothing.
Exactly. So I'm just trying to find something that I can show you.
Right.
I was going to say, while he does that, Ricki, I reckon we could answer 5 tips for a beginner setting up their PA.
Exactly.
Number 1,
I was literally just reading that one.
Walk around your room. So don't just stand in your mix position. So if you're trying to get a handle on your PA system, number 1, walk around your whole room and ensure the boxes cover everywhere they need to cover.
Yep.
Number 2 from me would be the PA should always sound with a vocal mic. You should always be able to, basically with the PA flat, you should be able to talk into a vocal mic and it should be clearly audible. If the vocal mic sounds muffled, then essentially your EQ on that PA system, I would be suggesting you should modify that. If you don't have someone, if that's beyond your skill set, you always want to find, your own Juzzy, your own person that can come and help you on the journey. I always recommend that churches have a local, partner with a local production company or contractor. It will help you immensely build your church, bringing them in. So that's 2 tips from me. Over to you, Ricki.
So I would absolutely agree with your, especially with the vocal mic. So first thing is if you're setting up the system, or it's the first time you're using a system, or it's a foreign system to you, make sure the system is balanced. So the system will comprise of multiple components. You want to make sure that your subs to your lows to your mids to your highs are balanced. You don't want anything out of proportion. Now, you might not have any analysis tools to be able to do that. That's fine. You can use your ears. Put some music, put some content on that you're really familiar with, and more or less start making sure that system's balanced. Now, if it's in a small environment and you're messing around with it and you're kind of adjusting things at the DSP, or if it's even an analog processor, if it's just a crossover, you can pull things back by 1 or 2 dB, 3 dB even, and you'll be fine. You're not going to affect people will then go on about, oh yes, but you'll be shifting the crossover point and that'll affect phase and this and that. Yep. But if it sounds better, go with it. You always want to set yourself up for a win. And your ears are always going to be the better judge, despite what an analyzer might tell you. So there would be that. Again, reiterating what Croft said, I quite often will grab 58 or whatever the vocal mic is, and I'll walk back to the console and I'll make sure I've got it dialed in with my voice through that microphone. And that, I've learned over the years, that always yields a better result. You can go and set up smart, and you can go and run pink noise through the PA and look at a FFT or look at an RTA and tune until your heart's content. And so that might yield you a great result. You might actually be able to pull it off, but at the end of the day, just grab a 58, talk through it, make sure that your S's are under control, your ch is under, like your 3 to 4K bite is under control, sometimes as high as 5K. Your woolliness is under control, so you're sort of 250 to anywhere between 250 and 500 region. And things like the next tip is find the frequencies that excite the room. You'll find that all rooms will have different acoustic properties. And like for us, our local auditorium here, our convention center, that 100 hertz triggers it every time. So sort of between 100 and 110 will trigger that room, and it'll hang around for a while, and it just becomes annoying, and it muddies up your mix, and you can't get a good sort of bass to kick relationship happening, and things like that. So we focus on that, and we know that that's what happens in our room. Find the faults in your own room. So, and you can do that using your own voice with a vocal microphone. Do sweeps with your mouth. Do do the hoo hoo and the ha ha until you find until you find those frequencies that resonate that room, and just simply notch them out. Until you get them under control. Jose, you want to take the last one?
Do you want to go back to this sub thing?
Yeah.
We need one more tip, mate. 5 tips. Crawford did 2. I did 2.
5 tips.
One more tip.
Ooh.
Like when you walk up to a foreign PA, what do you do? And I know you do something that, because I do it too. And say, for example, you have a reference microphone and you have an analysis tool. You have Smart. What do you do between the left and the right?
Oh, you would take your microphone, stick it in the middle, and make sure that both the left and the right are performing the same. And if they're not, then you start investigating what's wrong with it. Yeah.
More often than not, I've done that. Stuck the mic in the middle of the room, took a trace of the left and took the trace of the right, and somewhere in the mid range they radically look different. And you're like, okay, we need to investigate this before I even attempt to do a line check.
Yep, exactly. Yeah,
so there's a question we could ask Juzzy. Are you using audio prediction software, or is this just Vectorworks for designing PAs for something like Hillsong Conference?
It's a combination of the two. So I'll get the Vectorworks file from the production team, and then that gives me the chance to build elements like the screen and the stage in the prediction software accurately, with millimeter accuracy. So I know exactly where the stage is. I know exactly where the screen's going to be. Once I have that, then I can place PA around that within the prediction software. And then going back the other way, once we have a design that we're somewhat happy with, I'll take a 3D render basically of the PA and put that back into Vectorworks and send it back to the production team so they can see sight lines, they can see weight loadings, if there's any obstructions, if we're going to clash with a lighting truss or any video motors. Are we even able to hang it? Is there like in Kudos Bank Arena, there are rigging beams in the roof, but there's a whole fan extraction system that sit on top of them, and you can't access them to actually get a span set on them. So it's definitely a two-way process, and you definitely use both tools.
Yeah, and do you guys have examples of where the software maybe didn't exactly line up with what you thought would happen?
Ooh.
Well, that exact example, that happened to us because we were there looking at the files, looking at the rigging beams in Vectorworks and going, yeah, sweet, I can get a motor on that beam and it'll be easy. We walk in the venue, look up and go, oh, you can't actually, the beam is there, but you can't get to it because the extraction system wasn't on the drawing or something like that. Yes, and certainly back in like 2011, when we were using things like Y-axis shooter from Adamson, it was only ever in 2D. It was never in 3D. So every array had to be its own file, and you had to sit there with a bit of paper and a protractor and a pencil and work out which way you were going to point each array so they overlapped properly.
And I think I was still doing that method. I was still doing that for I was trying to remember the first United tour I went out as the front house systems engineer. I was still doing that even with Sound Vision. Because while Sound Vision worked in 3D then, and it was pretty new to running, it was pretty early software for the current version, that is, with that could model in 3D and had all the venue libraries and everything available. I would use Sound Vision to mainly predict the vertical plane, but I would still do the horizontal plane manually because Sound Vision told me the boxes could do one thing and it would react one way. My gut instinct told me the boxes could do something else or would do something else in the horizontal plane, especially when it came to making your the interaction between your mains and your sides. Because on that tour, I think we're running K1, and I think the side hangs were like Kudo.
Back then it would have been Kudo,
yeah. Cruddo, yeah. But yeah, it just needed to get loud. So so you're back then. It's like the prediction software was like, it was early days. That was good. It was a great tool, and it was early days. But you still had to do. There was chunks of it you would still kind of look at it and go, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah. In those days, you had to overshoot. If you for the back rows, you're like, yeah, I know it's not going to do that.
Yeah.
I still do even today. Like with prediction software now, I'll still point the first or the second box over the back row.
Yeah.
Because it still tapers off at the very top, and things like in Curtis Bank Arena, the back wall, even though it is like corrugated sheet metal, it's also perforated and there is a absorber behind it, so you can get away with shooting that up there and just getting that SPL to the back row the same experience for that last person.
Yep.
Yeah.
So guys in the chat, feel free to it don't have to be questions. Feel free to throw comments out there. Are you guys getting a lot out of this? Is this good? We kind of left this open-ended. We didn't really want to nail down the topics because we kind of wanted to let it naturally flow. Because what the conversation we have now is the conversations we would have leading up to a conference. About like how far do we overshoot and how much of PA do we use and how we're going to design the sub-array and things like that. So, make sure you go and drop the comments in. Make sure you're, please ask the questions. We're more than happy to answer them. But Juzzy, you were going to show us.
Yes. So this is let me share it again.
Hey, while you're sharing, Juzzy, because
I
think this is interesting, and hopefully it's in this info anyway. What's the sweet spot in the arena? What's the sweet spot trim for the bottom box that you never want to go over for this type of event? Because
I wouldn't say there's a number. It would all depend on. There's so many factors, but essentially,
but you're not going to want the bottom box at 30 meters. I know.
No, not at all. Not at all. A lot of it to do is with the low mid information. So can you still see me as well as?
Yep.
Yeah. So if you've got a line array like this, no matter how much you bend that bottom element down, because it's a line, the LF won't actually bend. It'll still keep going straight. So the higher you lift that up, all these people down here underneath it, down the front, that low mid gets thinner and thinner and thinner, and then just becomes not pleasant to listen to anymore.
And the longer your line array, like the longer your line source is, or your line array, but going back to basics like line source theory is, the longer your line is, the more control you actually have. Now, you might not want that control, but you're going to get it whether you like it or not. So the longer your array is, the more your vertical gets controlled. So if you're talking about creating this big, long line array, you are effectively going to end up steering your low and your low mid energy to the length that's capable of controlling and directing it one way. And that's the way that the bulk of the array is pointing. So you might have boxes pointing down, but bulk of your low end energy, you're only the upper of the mids and the HF will go down. The bulk of the low end energy is going to fire forward. So you need to compensate or think about that in your design.
Yeah, exactly. So going back to the subs, so basically this was last year, and we had 4 hangs of, was it 9? I think we ended up doing 9 deep.
Yeah.
E119's in the centre here. And then if I zoom out, can you see my mouse while I'm doing this as well? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the venue here. And if I just do a quick...
so were these in any kind of cardiac, Juzzy?
No cardio at all.
No cardiac.
All just on. So you can see there, that's the SBL coverage around the whole venue of we're at 80 hertz, right? These side bits are a bit hotter, but that's just because we're closer, physically closer than the ends here. So that's in the centre there, all as one group. Now, I think the question was, what happens if you put the subs out near the arrays? So if we take these subs and move them out here.
Real time.
That's it.
So you can see now there's a sub here, 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 and here. There's 4 subs out behind the arrays.
Yep.
And then if we plot that
This is going to be
in the SBL with interaction, this is what you are seeing.
yeah.
It's a pretty picture.
And honestly, you hear that at like some shows, like, you're walking from the door to your seat, and you hear that in the background music.
Yeah. And this is one of the conversations that came up last year when we realised basically the whole production, I can't remember the number, it was like 20 tons over on the roof. We had to cut big time. Yep. Lights, audio, everyone had to cut stuff. So, and also the thing that contributes to that is the further you put stuff in the centre, the more load becomes in the centre of the roof, and it wants to collapse. So if you can move the weight out, it'll help the roof. So there was discussions around moving the subs out behind the main arrays, or maybe even putting them in between the main arrays here. But I just basically sent back this saying, we can do that, it's possible, but this is the end result. You can see
exactly that's what happened.
I think you stood your ground, because I was trying to be I thought this was the time where I tried to be the nice boy, but I was going, oh, come on, we could do something, and you were like, no.
Yeah, no.
We can see it right there, it's 109 dB, and we go down to like 88 dB at 80 hertz. Yeah. So the experience for those people, the different people there, it's going to be massively different.
Yeah. The actual energy, like the air movement, is still there, but the point is that's cancellation. So that's interaction between 2 subarrays, right? So that has a detrimental experience to the low end of the main arrays as well, right? Because that extends all the way up to beyond the crossover point. So you're going to end up killing your low end of your main array in various forms as well. So that just has disaster written all over it. It's the same as when people do in the round, and it's kind of more of an oval shape, and they'll put 2 subarrays at the very end. You'll get any energy firing backwards from each sub will cancel out other energy at each end, and then what happens in the middle at the sides, you'll get this like 6 dB increase from both arrays, and it's overwhelming. And so that's also I've seen that before, and it's ugly. And you can talk about cardioid until the cows come home in an arena. It's not like an arena of this size. It's not going to matter that much. And the other thing you need to look out for is the reflection off the walls coming back as well, because you've got to basically account for those.
So why don't we just put all the subs on the ground and get ground loading and just like a big rock concert?
People will fall over.
Yeah,
and the drum kit will vibrate off the stage.
And the guys up in the very in the nosebleed section just be like,
"Where's the low end?
Is it on?" Yeah.
The people in the front row get impaled. So again, that's something. These are some things that we learn. I'm throwing that one out there, being a little bit funny about it, but when we started, these were things that was just common practice. Essentially people treated us like, you're just a rock concert. We throw a PA in, we put a whole bunch of subs on the ground, and it just didn't work for us. So we definitely, and hey, people laughed at us. People definitely went, you guys are idiots. When we started doing these big flowing sub arrays and things like that, to a certain extent. And now people have stopped and gone, that's actually quite smart. You get a much better result.
The the rental company system techs, the guys who come out and fly the PA, who are kind of like, kind of used to doing rock shows, so they just go and fly your left and right arrays and go and stack a bunch of subs on the ground. I mean, it's way more common these days. It's been common for like the last quite a few years to go and fly your subs as part of your main arrays. That's definitely become a trend over the last sort of 5 years, if not earlier. But a lot of the guys who are the rock and roll guys who are used to coming out and rigging the PAs for us are kind of, and you find this when you're, Juzzy will go in the morning and start making sure that the rigging plot is getting marked out on the floor as per it is on the drawing. And a lot of the time the rigger will walk up and just sort of he'll move his laser over and look at the beam above and go, if I shift that by a foot, I'll be able to do a dead hang. And that's where Juzzy will walk up and shift it back by a foot and go, no. 1 or 2 degrees here is a lot over there. So,
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're really, really, really particular. And we've worked with our contractors. We've worked with our suppliers. They've gotten used to us. A lot of them have actually taken the OCDness of what we try to achieve, and they've taken it back and applied it to their own, to their other shows that they do. That's pretty encouraging. But it's definitely, you don't want to feel like you're being beaten up by your suppliers or by your contractors or your riggers or anything like that. It's worth, if you feel that it's right and that, hey, I want to do it this way because of the reasons and, whatever the reasons are, and that that's going to have an impact down the road. And I mean, I made the mistake of quite a few years ago on a Hillsong, it was an album record, I think it was, of being sort of letting the PA company get away with not meeting the spec exactly, and it bit me big time, right? And well, it didn't bite me; it bit everybody big time. We had a lot of holes, a lot of gaps we had to fill, and I've never let that happen again.
That's potentially a prediction software-y thing too. That was all in that learning era of, it says one thing, but
Well, that was the
louvers don't do what they say.
No, it was the DV when the DV DOSs came down, and it looked okay, but then when you went and sat in that section, there's like this triangle that was not covered. And you're like, oh, that's fine. We'll put front fill in. It's like going back to like, that's great until someone stands up.
Yeah.
It only takes one person and they've blocked the front fill. Yeah.
So can we kind of take this topic about, we're talking about flown subs and floor subs, and someone's also asked about that. So is it more of like a style thing, as in rock versus church style, or does it have to do with the venue primarily, or what do you find is one of the biggest contributors?
I don't know if, if you know Hillsong, it's a rock show. Or if you've been to any Hillsong events, it's especially, so Hillsong Conference, we take corporate AV and rock touring and smash them together. Sorry, see my mic. So it's big PAs that can go loud, that cover the whole room, lots of bottom end, big band, lots of inputs, pulling a big sound, but with the finesse of a high-end corporate AV event, So we want the spoken word to sound supernatural and be really well received in every seat. So it's not so much a stylistic thing. It's a necessity, I would say.
It's a criteria the reality is it's a criteria we've put on ourselves to achieve a certain level.
Yeah.
So, a touring show, they bump in, it's a one-day show, they bump in, they bump out. We look at, especially for conference, we're there for a week. And we want, and this was the thing, we would do conference, and it's like, and literally, and like Juzzy's picture there, we had subs that caused cancellations, and we're there going, this seat's awesome, this seat sucks, this seat's awesome, so this whole journey has been about consistency across the room, from 20 hertz to 20K. I'll throw a fun one in, because this whole journey of where we added in, we put delays in. We don't need delays. If you're just doing a rock show, you don't need them. But I used to be standing at the mixing desk, and I'd look up into the balconies, and you could see everyone during the preaching leaning forward because they're trying to hear, because you've got even the ambient SBL, people rustling their papers. Once you're that far back, the reality is the sound pressure is dropping off. You can still hear, but it's not in your face. The preaching is not right there.
You couple that with the venue acoustics, and you're hearing verb.
And you're hearing, verb. So we, again, went down this path. We basically always end up putting some element of delays in, because we've got this criteria where we want the experience of, it doesn't matter if you're in the front row or the back, you have the same experience at the conference,
Yeah.
So,
Yep, and the video guys started putting delay. Well, they start off with delay projection screens, and then they move to delay LED screens, and then obviously that goes and shadows our PA, so therefore we have to put delays in now.
Yes.
It's the same criteria for them.
Yeah.
They're doing it, so if you're up the back, you're not missing out. It's not like there's a preacher down there. Because especially when someone's presenting, being able to see their facial expressions and all of that adds.
It's that connection,
the emotion of it, and the connection. That's the better word. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's big one. I mean, we're getting pretty close to running out of time. We've only got about 6 minutes left. So, Matto, if you want to run through and hit up any last minute questions, and I will just chuck a random one out there because I get asked a lot about it. Adamson themselves get asked a lot about it. The picture keeps popping up on Instagram every now and then, PA of the day and things like that. Juzzy, show us the 32 wall of E119s and what the prediction of that looks like.
Oh, yes.
And why we did it.
Well, that particular one comes back from when we used to use JPS or JPJ, and we're using the 218s in the centre.
The SB218s, yeah.
SB218s, yeah. And basically, again, it's all about that one source, that one subsource, and the least amount of interactions possible. So I do have the prediction for that here.
We even did it with SB1000.
That's right, the old EAW SB1000s.
Yes.
Yeah,
I remember that. Yes.
Yep. 3 wide, 8 deep, I think it was. 24 of those guys, but we went to when we went to 32. So it was 4 wide, 8 deep of E119s. Because if you look at the horsepower of an E119 versus most boxes twice its size, it still outdoes them. So it's a pretty impressive little cabinet.
You can see here that's the prediction of
that's
the 4 wide there, and then if we do this. So again, this is the one source. Now the interesting thing I had here. So when we were using the double 18 subs, I had a center one 8 deep and then 2 sort of on an angle like this, which gave a slightly better SPL over here. But because these are single 19s, you have to butt them all together. You don't get that steering with them. But as you can see here, it's pretty even coverage almost everywhere. It's a little quiet over here, but I don't think that's it wasn't such an issue. It's actually. But
you're talking 101, and if we move out further to the darker green section and the, it's not.
These are all 1 dB steps,
So I just have to do a quick shout out. We've got a celebrity in our midst, mate. Pooch, welcome.
Hey, Pooch. Yes.
Sorry, we have another question.
Yeah.
The difference between approaching a Hillsong conference and maybe something like a United tour or, one of the Hillsong band's tours, and the difference between prioritization of spoken word or just music. What is the difference?
For me,
a tour, the United stuff still has the same criteria. If we had James on here or Pippet, they very much, Ricki went out for a couple of years in a row as the systems tech to get their PA where we wanted it, because the guys that were doing the tour just didn't understand our criteria. They were lovely dudes. They knew how to put the PA up, but just It's that extra 10% that we were after.
That's it. And the other thing too is with our bands, because it's like a 4 or 5 piece rock band with 1, 2, 3 vocals. It's a lot easier to. I'm not going to say it's a lot easier to mix because that's not fair. But our shows are like.
It is.
It is. Okay. It is. It is. And the thing, and talking about Pooch, going back to the webinar that he done with Chris Raybob, where they talk about the third guitar, like that was awesome. It was so good because it. I could relate to it because we deal with it a lot, and with Unite, it's like try 4.
Yeah.
Try 4 electric guitars. What do you do with that? And I think in a couple of weeks, I'm going to see if James is available and get him on and talk about some of those challenges that we face. But with us, our stuff, it's like there is like the input count can be out of control, and the guys are so creative. They're coming up with new stuff all the time. But what we've found is like. With a lot of the traditional and the early line source systems, they had the mains were doing all the work and the subs were added as a low-end extension or an effect. And a lot of guys back then were driving subs off Oxes and doing crazy stuff like that. And that's cool. That if it worked for you, that's great. But we have 8 vocals on stage. So that's 8 mics that are all open. We have a large drum kit. The drum kit's got pads and electronic components to it and everything like that. It's not Pooch's Iron Maiden kit with 9 toms, but it's pretty crazy. And then you've got on one United tour, one of the guys was also playing like an array of toms and percussion as well as part of the openers and various things like that. So it's and you've got to get all of that. Like people expect they're there. They want to hear it. They can see it. They want to hear it. So you've got to get that all into the PA. And what was happening was we were finding the end of those 15-inch drivers. And the bottom end was hard to get it to sound clear. So there was a PA that, it's very popular to this day. I'm not going to talk about makes and models, but I would jump, and it wasn't processed by Lake, but I would jump in with a DLP and I would high pass the thing. And I was viewed as a criminal to the rental company. They were like, how dare you high pass that main array up at 80 hertz? That is sacrilege. But the thing is, there was a sub array right behind it that happened to have the same low end drivers as the main array. We crossed them over. We had twice as many low end drivers, and we split the load. So the bottom end of the PA wasn't having to carry wasn't have to carry the weight of what was trying to be mixed and trying to get that clarity and the definition. So we basically split it between the main array and the existing low-end extension array, and that basically cleared it up. You could get definition out of the kick, you could get definition out of the bass, the bottom end of the toms were clear, and the vocals stopped sounding muddy. So that was a learning experience as well. I'm actually going to, let's see. I mean, this is a curveball because I have never done this before, but.
Here, I added Pooch as a panelist.
Pooch as a panelist. So there we go.
Whoa, look at that.
Whoa.
Welcome.
Live from the USA.
Hey, man.
Live from the USA. How are you guys?
Good, mate. You?
Good, man. How are you?
Awesome. I was just kicking myself because I got the timing wrong and am catching you just at the end. So I didn't get to see all your good stuff. I thought it was 8 p.m. my time. And so,
that's right. We're going to be doing it every week. So,
cool.
Expect me to hit you up in a couple of weeks as a guest. So,
oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Of course.
It's going to happen.
We've all been loving your material.
Yeah.
But as Ricki said,
thank you.
When you guys were talking about your challenges with too many inputs and the musical challenges that hit home for all of us very much.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've been watching your stuff too. It's really good, man. I dig it.
It's having a bit of fun,
Yeah.
Hey, I've got one random with this group of people. Has anyone unpacked their tour bag yet? I'm not lying. Mine's still sitting next to the bedroom. My wife keeps looking at me strange.
Of course, mine's in my closet. You have double everything, right? The stuff that's in their tour bag is not what you use at home. So,
no.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly.
I figure I'll unpack mine sometime around October.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so for everybody that's joined our webinar, for those that don't know, and I'm pretty sure it'll be not many at all. So Ken Van Druten, he is the front of house engineer currently for Iron Maiden. Previously, Justin Bieber, which is basically majority stadium tours, and that was an awesome show. Before that, 10 years with Linkin Park?
12 years with Linkin Park. Yeah.
Yep. And that's where Juzzy and I both met him. So at different stages, I was out rigging away at InRig, and then Juzzy was out rigging some Adamson. After I'd finished up with Norwest, and and we've all stayed friends ever since. It's been awesome. So.
It's amazing, man. All you guys down there, I've run into some of the best people that you keep yourself surrounded with, Ewan and, you guys are amazing down there. It's been, I always had a great time when I went down there with Linkin Park for sure.
Oh, thanks, man.
That's been good. So make sure you're, jump onto YouTube and on Instagram, check out Pooch's material. Just do a search for FLH Pooch and it'll come up. Same deal with YouTube. He's also got another session. Just give us a quick chat on Wrong End of the Snake.
So Wrong End of the Snake is a thing between me and Kevin Tater McCarthy, who is an amazing monitor engineer. And we're like an old married couple. We've been together for 18 years, and we've done over 10 bands, major acts together. And so we're kind of doing this webinar that's an exploration of like what relationships are in this business and how that is. And so we're having guests on, and we definitely would love you to come on there, Ricki. It's been a lot of fun. We had Jesse Adamson on this week, so it was cool.
That was classic.
Yeah, we actually have Mike Shinoda, a band member from Linkin Park, will be on there the following week. So
awesome.
Good times.
I'll be watching that one. I'm a Linkin Park fan from way back, and so when I got the opportunity to do that quick run around Australia with them, that was a life-changing moment for me. So.
It was fun,
in more ways than one. Definitely. So definitely go and look up that content, guys. We're going to be doing this every week for at least the next. So this is the first one. I've basically signed the guys up for the next 7 weeks after this. So we decided to do 8 weeks and see how it goes.
Well, you have the time, so
yeah, it's the webinar season. So, we're in the middle of, not in the middle. Hopefully, we're leading towards the end of the last half of the pandemic. Hopefully, nothing else fires up after this. It's been pretty devastating what's going on, especially to our industry. But you kind of, if you have to look at the brighter side, it's opened up a lot of this sort of stuff. Guys getting on YouTube who would never normally do that sort of thing. And I know everyone's been loving the content that's been going out there. There's like I said, if we just focus on the positives, it's actually been an amazing experience. We'll forget that most of the industry is out of work, and we're, especially for I'll personally be praying for those guys, but that's, and always keeping them in our thoughts and stuff. So if you are actually from a church and you're still actively doing stuff and you need support, especially in audio, make sure you're looking up your local audio guys and reaching out to them. Talk to your local, even if it's your local union body or your local rental house or even the freelance engineers that are out there. There's guys that will definitely, they've got time and they're going to be available to help you. So, this stage, you're going to get guys that would never normally be available, or you would never normally get, time from because they'd be so busy. I'm sure they're going to have time these days. So, definitely reach out to them, and if you can, throw them some work, or get them in as a consultant, or even if it's a mix consultant, or you're getting them to listen to your mixes and give back feedback and advice, then anything helps. So cool, guys. So make sure you check out HS Creative Technology on Instagram. That's Hillsong's Creative Technology account. For if you're curious about the name Creative Technology, that's the name of our production department. So we kind of moved away from it, wanted to modernize it a bit, give it a bit of a new branding. So check that out. There's a lot of content on there. There's stuff coming out every week. So obviously we'll be here every week. There's stories about guys from Hillsong who are doing various things. The last one was from Brad Sehusen, and before that, Stephen Pippett, actually, who's actually the production manager for United. So he talks a lot about United and touring. So look forward to it. Again, so jump on Instagram, go to our page. Feel free to leave comments of what you guys want to hear about. Crawford, what have we got coming up? We're going to talk about...
I'm going to talk like digital transport and how, again, why it's important for us to have all the consoles on one network. The sources, if it's there, it's there. If you don't have it, you've patched it wrong.
Yeah, that's it.
but managing that large channel count, but the importance we've learned of having like a single digital transport for these kind of events was, I think, what we're going to try and tackle next.
Next week. If you've got any questions regarding our crazy PA designs and why we do that, feel free to post the questions and we'll do a follow-up, even if it's just on IG or IGTV. So thanks for coming, guys. It's been awesome. It's been around 48 attendees, 50 at some spots. So good turnout. I'm pretty happy. Thanks for joining us, Pooch.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That's awesome. I'll be watching every week. So have fun.
Awesome. And Matto, any last questions before we?
Well, let's end on a fun one. We could just talk about our favorite PA sound checking songs.
All right. Guest goes first.
I don't have any. I use virtual playback.
That's true.
You use your gig.
That's right.
But I mean, listen, I for years I used like Tears for Fears, records that were specific to certain parts of the PA. I would use different songs that had sub information in them, other songs that had mid-range information in them. But yeah, I did use Tears for Fears for a long time. I can't remember. I don't know. I can't remember the ones that I was using. But yeah, for now, I totally use virtual playback. That's all I use.
The first time I ever heard you fire up a track was Tom Sawyer.
Oh, right. I did use that. Yeah.
Yep. But you and Chris Raybold actually talked about that on your series. So guys, go back and check that out. Where they discuss system engineering and PAs, especially, out in the big bad touring world. So, Croft?
Whatever Juzzy's playing. I don't go anywhere without Juzzy. We know this. I'm dangerous without a systems tech. No, a good old Jeff Buckley and a mic. Yeah. For me, that talking the mic, if I've got clarity,
man.
I'm good.
Yeah. Juzzy, your extensive playlist?
I've got a couple. The Jennifer Warnes.
Right.
What else?
Come on, you've been using Jeff Buckley forever as well.
Yeah, Jeff Buckley. Yeah.
Everybody Here Wants You for anyone else. That
was the other one.
I Will Remember
Dire Straits
from Toto.
Well.
Yeah, Toto. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Juzzy and I especially, we just trade playlists. So.
It's funny. I think the legacy of that Jennifer Warren, I mean, I don't know if you came, but I think that legacy comes from Ben from Adamson, because he was like the first dude to start playing that a lot in Adamson demos. So it's funny whenever I talk to people that use Adamson a lot of them use that track.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll definitely be back next week. And we will post on Instagram where you'll be able to view this. So this was all recorded and it'll be played back. Matto, is that going to be YouTube or?
Yeah, we'll see about getting that on YouTube.
Excellent. Cool. So we'll put
Sweet.
it on the HS Creative Technology account on YouTube, and that'll be up in a couple of days. So thanks for coming, guys. Feel free to jump in on Instagram, leave your comments. Make sure you sort of giving us feedback, telling us what you want us to talk about, especially in our circle with conferences for church conferences. Obviously, not everybody does the size of what we do and what Passion does and those guys, but we also we run many small conferences throughout the year, so we cover the whole variety. So just tell us what you want to hear about, and we're more than happy to discuss it. Cool. All right. All right. Thanks, Jazzy. Thanks, Crawford. Thanks, Pooch. Especially thanks to Matto.
Yes.
See you.
See ya.
Bye.